Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Everything April. Today's tutorial is on how to draft a basic short sleeve pattern. If this is what you like to learn, please watch to the end of this video. And please subscribe to my channel if you're yet to subscribe, and also give this video a thumbs up. So the first thing is to fold my paper into two. I'm drafting with my paper folded. So to know the amount you fold, if you're using a pattern or if you're drafting directly on your fabric, you would have to measure your armhole. You're going to be using your armhole circumference to fold. So for me, I've made this dress. I'm going to measure what I have for the armhole opening. I'll measure from the shoulder down to the chest line. So I'll take that measurement and I have 8.5 inches. So that is for one side. So when you multiply that, it is 17 inches. So that is why my fabric on fold, I'm going to have 8.5 inches. So I have enough. I have more than that. And for the length, it's going to be, as the name implies, it's a short sleeve. So on the average, you can have 8 inches or 9 inches. But for this tutorial, I'm using 11 inches of length. Now, the edge of the paper will act as my baseline. So the first thing I'm going to do is to measure out my cap's height. For this tutorial, I'm using a cap's height of 4.25 inches. And how to get your cap's height is by dividing the bust circumference you're working with by 12 inches and adding 0.5 to what you get. So that is what I have done, as you can see on the screen. And I approximated and I have 4.25 inches for my cap's height. So I'm ruling across this measurement. The second measurement I'm going to take is from the baseline. I'm going to measure 11 inches, which is the length of the sleeve I'm working with. The length I'm working with in this video is 11 inches. So I'm going to also measure that and rule across these measurements. On the cap's height line, I'm going to impute 8.5 inches. The 8.5 inches I measured when I checked what I have on the armhole of the dress I have already made. So I'm going to connect from this 8.5 inches to the top, to the baseline as shown. So after connecting this, I'm going to measure this line and find out what I have on this slanted line, and I have 9.5 inches. I would divide that into two to find the midpoint of this line. So I've divided that into two, and I'm going to note that the point, and from this point I'm dividing this slanted line, I'm going to come up by 0.5 inch by half an inch, and I would make this into a line, this half inch into a line. The next thing I'm going to do is to measure the first half, the upper part of half of this line. I'm also going to further divide this into two. I'm going to find the midpoint of what I have as well. So I found that on my tape by folding the measurement into two. So I'm going to note that, and this point I'm noting, I'm going to also note the same point. I'm going to divide the lower half of the slanted line into two again, which will give me the same thing I had when I divided the upper part. I will still note that on the line. Then on the upper part, I'm going to come up by 0.25, that is by 1/4 of an inch, and make that into a straight line. And on the lower half, I'm going to go down by 0.25 and also make that into a line. So for the back armhole, for where the sleeve will be attached to the back armhole, I'm going to connect from the base to this half inch I came up by, and then to the cap's height line where the measurements stop on the cap's height line. So I'll connect first from the sleeve, from the base line. I'm connecting to this half inch I came up by, and then I'm going to connect with the straight part of my ruler down to the measurement on the cap's height line, and this will be for the back sleeve head. Then for the front sleeve head, where the sleeve will be attached to the front armhole, I'm going to connect from the base down to these 0.25 inches, and then to the lower part of the half inch line. Just see how I'm connecting it from the sleeve head down to the measurement here, and down to half of this slanted line. So you can see how I connected, and this is for the front sleeve head. Then I'm going to also continue my connection from where I stopped before the point dividing the slanted line into two down to the 0.25 I came down by, and then to the cap's height. You can see how I'm connecting it. So it's as if I'm making an inverted S. Okay, I just made an inverted S, and this would be for the front armhole, where the sleeve will be connected to the front armhole. So I'm done with the sleeve head. The next thing I'm going to do is to impute half of the sleeve opening circumference at the length you measure. If you measure 9 inches, that's where you take the circumference. For me, I measured 11 inches, so I'm going to impute the circumference around that 11 inches, which was 14. I divided that by 2, which gave me 7 inches. So I imputed 7 inches for the sleeve, half of the sleeve opening. So I'm going to connect the measurement on the cap's height line to this measurement I imputed on the length of the sleeve. So that is that about this. We're almost getting to the end of this, or in fact this is just what it should be. But for this, I'm going to add allowance. I'm going to add my hemming allowance. It is not compulsory because this is a pattern, but I would like to add my hemming allowance to this. So I added 1 inch hemming allowance on my pattern, and I'm going to also connect this with a straight line. Also, I'm going to add my joining allowance to the sleeve pattern. This is also not compulsory if you're drafting on a pattern, but if you're drafting on your fabric, you should add your allowances. So I'm also adding my allowance on my pattern. So I'll just place and cut when I'm cutting on the fabric without adding any other allowance. So I would go ahead and cut out my pattern. To do that, I will have to fold in my hemming allowance, but I would first cut out the excess I have on my pattern. I would like to cut that out, and then I'm going to fold in my hemming allowance. So I'll fold in my hemming allowance and then cut out. I'm going to cut out my pattern. So I would cut out the side first, and after cutting the side, I'm going to cut out the back armhole first. I'm going to cut out the back armhole, the first curve I have up. That is what I'm going to cut out first. So when I cut this out, I'm going to then open my sleeve to cut out where the sleeve would be joining the front armhole. So you should do this opening the pattern. You should not cut it on fold, and that is what I've done. So I'll go ahead and also follow the curve and cut out as you can see me demonstrating. So guys, this is it on how you can easily draft a basic short sleeve pattern. To transfer this pattern on your fabric, you only have to open your pattern, place it on the fabric, and trace it or cut it out. Thank you guys for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you've not subscribed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.